That's easy for him to say, huh? Hey, it's me, Shane, Gemini Garage, and today we are going to revisit the Wilson 5000 antenna, and this procedure and process also applies to the Wilson 1000 as well. There's also a gentleman, I'll put his name on the screen here, who's got a video on basically doing the same thing to a Wilson 1000 antenna. As a matter of fact, he kind of gave me the inspiration to see if I could get into mine and do the same thing. So, like I said, I will leave his YouTube channel name on the screen here, and I will leave a link to his video in the description. So with that, if you don't know, Wilson Antennas has been around a long time, and they were known for making really great antennas. Some of the best in mag mount antennas, just, you know, pretty beefy for what they were. And but then somewhere along the line, around the late 90s, early 2000s, the quality control kind of started going downhill, as it usually does if it, you know, gets outsourced, which a lot of stuff did. And then, you know, by the early to mid 2000s and up, it just seemed like people were having a lot of other problems with them, just shorting out, and the bad solders in here and stuff just cracking and breaking, and just, you know, ridiculous problems. So that happened to this one. I have some other antenna videos, one of them being a video called Mondo, Mount Mania, and that's where I have an antenna shootout with some larger antennas like the Striker SR10, and one of them was this. And it was working great. The SWR was really low, and everything was going well. And then all of a sudden, it just like developed a dead short in there, and it was really frustrating, to say the least. As a matter of fact, it kind of PO'd me to the point where I just sort of kind of ejected it from the test and just considered it not passing the test. The Wilson here. I've got video and already went through kind of what happened with it. I'm really seriously not happy with it. I'm very not happy with it because I could have had a high power radio or something else hooked up to that, you know, when it took a dump. You know, Wilson, unfortunately, while the design of their antennas is great, the quality control of some of them over the years has just taken a crap. So this thing shorted out during a test. You know, it really, in my opinion, while I did get it fixed, I got it to work, in my opinion, it just, it really didn't finish the test. So it just probably really shouldn't be on here with the rest of these, I don't think. I mean, you know, pretty much how I feel about it. So we're just gonna kind of, you know, planes have like a missing man formation, you know, when they've lost a pilot or whatever. So we're just kind of gonna put this here in memory of the Wilson, because Wilson 5000, it's a great antenna, but the quality control of what's going on inside is just, it's ridiculous. So, anyway, on to the President Maryland. I mean, you know, the first thing I'm thinking of is, you know, thank God I, you know, wasn't putting out, you know, 800 watt sideband or something, you know, and you blow up your radio. You don't want that. Especially, this is a very stupid, simple design, you know. So I mean, when you can't get this right and you maybe blow up somebody's radio, that's just not cool. So I'm going to kind of cobble this thing back together and show you how I took it apart, and kind of what to look for and what might be a problem area in there, and hopefully, if you've got one of these and you've got a problem with it, you can fix it. I hate to say it, but if it's a newer antenna made in the last, you know, 10 years or so, you probably almost just need to do this anyways, just because you don't want to get out there and have the thing short out or have a problem, and you're not going to know it until it's too late. And like I said, this thing was working fine at first, but I think just all that clunking it on and off the roof just was enough to just kind of rattle whatever was going on in there in some way, and it completely shorted out. I was able to kind of I didn't take the cover off, but I took this off and kind of fiddled around with it and banged it around a little bit and managed to get it working again, but you can't trust it after something like that happens. So I just finally decided it was time to just see if I could take it apart and see what was going on in there. So hopefully this video will help you take yours apart and figure it out, and maybe you can kind of return the Wilson back to its former glory again. So stick with me. Okay, well, just a bit of a close-up. of the parts here before I proceed. This is what you're going to get when you take this cover off right here. So this just pretty much has an edge right here, and I'll get into more of this in detail in a minute, but taking this apart, you really need to wear gloves and be really careful what you're doing if you're using, depending on what you're using. If you're using a razor blade, X-Acto knife, maybe if you've got a super thin layered screwdriver, or almost like a small little piece of sheet metal that's kind of curved, or, you know, they make some X-Acto blades with some pretty interesting shapes on the ends of those too. But as you can see, this groove here is only probably about, maybe 1/8 of an inch deep. And so you only need to kind of go down to there. And while it might be glued a little bit around here, usually if you can kind of get this edge around here broken loose, this is solid enough that once you unscrew this off of here, then you can kind of, well, I'll show you here. So you got, it would have been nice if they would have just put a frickin' O-ring in here, which you could probably do that, or just put some silicone or something in there and just put that in there, because this thing pulls it up tight and tightens it up in there anyway. So there's really, I mean, you know, you'd probably be better off just putting some silicone in there. It would be weatherproofing it better, and it wouldn't be as hard to get it apart if you ever need to take it apart. But, you know, basically it's together like that. You got this thing screwed on here. Like that. And then of course, you know, you got the load that unscrews off of your base here. Okay, so, you know, you got this set up here. This is on here kind of tight. You're going to need some pliers to get this off. It starts threading off easier as further off it comes, but it's pretty stiff when it's all the way down on here. And that was what I did, was I tightened this up a little bit, and that's, I think, what started making it work again. But so what I did was, you can take a really super small screwdriver with a super flat tip on it, or if you've got an old screwdriver like this that's small and flat, and you've got some, you know, an extra one laying around, you can grind it even flatter, just enough to kind of get in there, you know. Now you'll notice around here there's a couple little marks where I kind of, you know, a couple little pry marks here and there, but when I'm done, I'm just gonna, you know, scuff this edge, this 45-degree edge here. I'll just scuff that with a little bit of sandpaper or whatever, and just kind of put a little wax on it when I'm done, and you'll never see it, but at least I got it open. But you kind of just need to basically put the screwdriver in there and just kind of, and the glue, I mean, if you stick it in there and kind of, you can kind of hear the glue popping. So, like I said, so recap, the first way would be to open up a utility knife just to the bare minimum there and kind of get it in the edge there. Actually, I think that's how I did it, was I think I put it in there like that, and then I kind of turned this thing. And that sort of scrapes some of that glue out of there. And then after you've heard this pop a couple times, and then after you feel like you've kind of, you know, got it gone down, and remember, like I said, this only goes down about 1/8 of an inch, so you don't have to push down in there far. Don't, it's only going to go down a little bit, you know, like that far, so don't try to push it anymore, because it's only going to go in there, you know, like I said, about 1/8 of an inch. So, and I'm just telling you that because there's no need to push any harder, because if you're using a screwdriver or, you know, a razor blade or something, you don't want to just be reefing on it. Again, you should probably wear gloves and be really careful doing this. So once you've got this kind of broken loose around here, you feel like you've kind of got it broken loose, then you can come up here to this thing, you can kind of start pushing on that a little bit, and it should just pop right out of there. Now this here is like a solid brass stud here that goes down through this kind of porcelain insulator here, and then it ends up, that's part of the porcelain insulator right there, and then that little thing that comes out. As a matter of fact, if you kind of push, what is it, pull? Yeah, if you pull on this, you can kind of see it move a little bit. You can see that center thing and that center porcelain kind of move a little bit. Now, when you've got this thing in there, and this thing is, you know, pulling all the way out, when you've got this screwed on there, it's pulling that up just a little bit. And then when you go to push this thing down to get it out of here, it kind of pushes that down just a little bit. There's just a little bit of play in there. And once it pushes down like that, it's pretty solid and you can push on it. Now, I don't know if I would, I wouldn't hit it with a hammer, or certainly not a hard hammer. But once you've got this broken loose around here a little bit, or you've been around there a little bit, you can probably just take this and just kind of put it on something and just kind of push on it, and that'll probably come out of there. So now that we got this thing apart, we're going to take a second here, and we're going to look at all the areas where you've got, you know, a connection or where you could have a problem with it. But once you've got it out of here, you're pretty much good. You should be able to fix it unless you've got something catastrophic wrong. This obviously, this nut here could be loose, causing this to be loose and making poor contact. You've got a solder down here that could be broken or weak. You've got another one right here that could be broken or weak. And then you've got this contact down inside of here. It's basically a piece of ribbon brass that goes from your centerpiece here to not the porcelain part, but obviously the base here. There's a brass thing down here that comes out and is soldered to your coil here. So there's that connection to look at. Okay, so I'm going to take my wrench here and put it on this nut, and yeah, this is not very tight on there. It was literally, honestly, if I would have just pretty much done that, that's about how tight it was on there. And that's probably not good. It's probably why it shorted out, and probably why when it was together I screwed this down and pulled this more, and that's probably why it started working again. It's because it jimmied something in here, and that's probably what it was. So we've got a nut and a stimpled washer, and then we've got a brass piece with a slot on each end for the piece of wire here, or the coil. So this is basically what clamps it in there, if you can see that. And so it slides in and out, you can see. So you probably want to make sure this is making really good contact in and out of there, would be my guess. I don't know if I'm going to take it apart any further. I think you could probably just pull this whole thing out of here, and then this nut here, you could loosen that and take this off from here. I've pretty much been over this thing with a fine-tooth comb, and the best I could figure was, like I said before, this nut was not clamping down on this enough, and this was just kind of floating back in here a little bit and not making good contact. Because like I said, once I tightened this up and kind of pulled this taut, it started working again. So I think that's where my problem was. I checked my two solders over here. There's one right there where it solders to the like the base brass piece there, and then there's another one here that's where this ribbon attaches to. Those both seem fine. All this stuff in here looks good. The insulators don't look cracked. Nothing looks like it's, you know, tarnished or you know, anything. So I'm pretty sure that was probably my issue. So now if you wanted to take this apart further, I believe what you would do is you'd probably just pull this thing out of here, bend it a little and pull it out of there, and then put a wrench on here, and I believe this thing here down here just unscrews probably from this right here. But like I said, by the time you get into tearing it down that far, you've probably got a really serious problem. Most of the problems, you know, I believe most of the time it's just, like I said, it's a broken solder here, it's a broken solder there, or in my case, this thing here was loose. So other problems have also been these things cracking or breaking, which is probably going to happen. If they would just make it so that, like I said, if they just make it so like there was an O-ring in here, so it was a little more, you know, so you could take it apart, maybe offer some replacement covers and replacement parts, but, you know, that would probably be too easy. Forgive my old school thinking about, you know, things like that. I'm going to take this thing right here and kind of clean this edge a little bit here and make sure this is clean here. Like I said, I will probably just put some silicone or something around there, and that'll be just as good or better than what was on there, because it'll kind of help weatherproof it too. And I've got a video on weatherproofing your antenna. It's kind of a good video. I will leave a link to that. And then once you got this part here back together, probably wouldn't hurt to put just a tiny little bit of silicone right around here, you know, before you put this on and tighten it up. And it should be more waterproof than what it was, and hopefully a hell of a lot more reliable. So I'll be back. Yeah, that's good enough. And then this right here, that's pretty clean. That glue didn't really have the plastic melted together, right? It's pretty crappy glue, so, which I guess is a good thing. So, all right. So, let me put this thing back on here, and we'll actually tighten it up to where it should be there. Should probably put like some Loctite on this. Might not be a bad idea. Okay. Now you want to take another little wrench and put it on this brass piece down here and hold it while you turn this so you don't screw anything up here. Yeah, it was nowhere near that tight. So, yeah. I can't believe how not anywhere near that tight it was. I mean, you should be tightening it enough to where at least it starts to, you know, you can feel that stippled washer, star washer start to kind of crush a little bit. So, yeah, I think we're going to be good to go there. So now what I'm going to do is get a little bit of RTV silicone and just put a little bit of it in that edge there. Unfortunately, I just have the tail end of a tube here, so I'm going to have to get it out a little bit at a time here. But that's okay. We'll get her done. Okay, I probably got enough on there. I can probably just go ahead and run my finger around it just like some caulking. Yeah, I think we're about all the way around it there. Okay. All right. And give me a second while I wipe all this off my hands here. All right, I definitely think that's good enough. So we're going to go ahead and put our coil in there. This is really not unlike the Striker SR10 if you look at it. I mean, it's really pretty similar, you know. And you could always put another little bead of silicone in this little crack here if you felt like it. I'm not going to worry about it. And now we need to put our mast on here. And you can take this mast out if you want to make it a little bit more user-friendly. If you're doing this indoors or something. I just happen to be out here, so not a big deal. Just kind of hold our bottom here. Like I said, you're going to need to put some pliers on here, so. And that's got it. Whoops. Stay. All right. Yeah, I could feel it sucking this base up in there, so that'll be good. Take and put a rag on our base here to get some of our leftovers off of there. All right. And let's see. Like I said, I'm going to take a little bead of silicone here and just put it around there. Alright. Okay, well I think we're good to go there. We've checked everything. We've showed you how to take it apart, what to look for inside, make sure everything's tight, kind of how it goes together in there. Put a little silicone in the bottom here, putting it back together, put a little bit around there. We checked it with the tester there to make sure it was connecting, which you could see it was just from looking at the stuff in there. So I guess the only thing left to do is to put this thing back on the base and put it on a vehicle and put the antenna analyzer on it and check it out. Maybe even hook a radio up to it. Fortunately, I still have the same vehicle and the same, I can park it in the same situation as I did when I was doing the test where this failed, so I can duplicate that situation. So that's what I think I'll do. So. And also a real quick note, one of my biggest gripes of this antenna was versus some of the other ones is that it didn't have a rubber boot for the magnet here, which I think they could include that. The other thing too is I believe the Striker has a little O-ring or a little rubber washer that kind of goes here to kind of help additionally seal out any water or moisture from there. So not a bad idea if you want to get some kind of a washer like that, or put a little silicone around here if you're not going to be taking this off and on it too many times, because just a quick note there. All right, there we go. All right, well, I'm back at the scene of the crime here. Got the old Wilson on top of the Expedition. Okay, I'm going to try and I'm going to hook up the antenna analyzer here and see what we got. Oh, this is a flashback, let me tell you. Okay, so let's turn this thing on and let's see what we got here. Again, this thing is really hard to read in the sunlight, so let's see here. Okay, let's go 27, let's go to 27205. 27, where are we here? 14121. Okay, so we're at 27385. We're at a 1-1, so if you want to talk on sideband on this thing, that's okay. So at 27205, which is 20 on CB, we're at a 1.3. 26965, we're at like a 1.5, and then if we go up to 27 405, we're at like a 1.1. So if you want to go talk on sideband, oh hell yeah, there you go. And that was what I loved about this antenna. The SWR on it was just, you could, it was pretty broad, depending on where you want to talk. Now 27205, a 1.3 on this mobile here, like it is, it's not too bad, but I'm sure I can probably adjust that down just a little bit. So let me see where I can get it to on 27205ish here. Okay, well I just got done letting it out a little bit, and about 1/8 of an inch, and 1.2 now at around 210, 27.210, 27.20, channel 20. There it is, 1.2. And like I said, that was the great thing about it, is it was really, you could really dial it into wherever you wanted with the SWR on it. So, if you got one of these, they're worth fixing. And, I mean, they're worth buying one if you don't mind taking it apart and kind of making sure it's okay first and putting it back together. They are really, really great antennas in that regard. Excellent design. But, the quality control and cheaping out on stuff, that really does some damage. So. All right, and just to show, this is not in an ideal position. It's close to my other antenna. It's just right outside the door where my radio is. So, and even still, with a small little amp doing only maybe 100 watts or so, the SWR is still only like a 1.3 or so. So it does. It's a good working antenna for what it is, for sure. So they're definitely worth fixing, like I said before, but it's just ridiculous that you have to.
Well, the other night I had just like a little 3-foot little,
That's another local that just keyed up and called him a mud duck.
Yeah, you was going pretty clear out of there. Sharpshooter, how about a sharpshooter? You on the show?
That's Skip.
Yeah, one of those Skip guys walked on you. Yeah, I heard that guy too. Yeah, he was going pretty clear the other night. Yeah, right on.
I think that was Mongoose that stepped on you. Waving a hand, you guys.
What's up, Gemini? Hello, I'm not a sharpshooter. Everyone wish a sharpshooter. I don't step on anybody.
I didn't mean stepped on, I mean walked on.
No problem, Marshall. Mongoose is the name. Stepping on the game. Got the squeal. Say what? Yeah, you're squealing a little bit. Probably my air conditioner right here that I'm sitting right in front of. I heard the squeal too.
It just sounds like your mic gain.
Alright, how about that there? Yeah, it went away.
Okay, well, I hope that was informative, educational, and helps you get your 1,000 or your 5,000 back up and running. It's a shame you have to do that, but they really are good antennas. That's, not only are they just a really good antenna, but for whatever reason, and like I said, the design is not that much different than the SR10, but this thing is just, you can really tune it in to where you want to talk, and it's just really easy to get it at a lower SWR. I had to fiddle with some of the other antennas a little bit more to get them lower, and even then sometimes I could only get them to 1.3 or 1.2, but this thing here, you can have it 1.1, 1.2, pretty much wherever you want it. So great design, poor quality control. So like I said, they're definitely worth fixing, and if you don't mind cracking one open brand new, to make sure, because you just can't trust them. I mean, like I said, I bought that one brand new in 2025 and just did a couple of tests with it before it just completely shorted out. So, and they're not cheap either. It was like $160. So they just really need to up their quality control, and they need to maybe put a little rubber gasket under there, and they could maybe put an O-ring in there, and just make it so that you could a little bit more serviceable, and it would be great. Really wouldn't have any complaints. Even just making it a little more serviceable with putting an O-ring in there and then offering some replacement parts, but I wouldn't complain. So, but anyways, it is what it is, I guess, and hopefully you get your antenna up and going again. You heard me talking to the locals. I mean, those guys are in all 3 different spots, and they all heard me just fine. And that was through a little bit of skip. And you know, the antenna is just right there on the vehicle, just a few feet away from the radio, about 10 feet. And then I even put the box on, just a tiny little one, for just a couple seconds. And the SWR still stayed, it was like a 1.3 even with that, and being as close as it was. So again, that's one of the reasons I really love this antenna. Is you can just you can tune it where you want to talk, and the SWR stay low even if it's not the greatest of conditions. So anyways, thanks again for watching. Like I said, I hope that motivates you to break out your old antenna. They work so great, and they're not cheap, so if you've got one laying around, you might as well fix it. So click the like and subscribe if you think about it, and we'll see you in the next one. Shane, Gemini Garage.